Orlando Bloom, Sean Ellis.
Really sorry about that. Everyone needs a stiff drink right now.
Wow, you guys, you don't pull your punches, do you? I mean, that's a. Oh. But I'll tell you what, it's lovely to see something projected on film.
Even with the real splices, it's
Yeah.
kind of, I missed that. Like, even Orlando said to me, why does the sound keep dipping out? And I was trying to explain to him, it's because the reels, like, they used to have two projectors and they used to switch one between the other, but now they got one projector and they stick the film together, so as they stick it together there's like well, but I missed it in a weird way. Who missed that? I was like, I remember that used to be how we watched it, but the little and real change.
Fantastic. So Sean, this is your sixth film as a director, your fourth as a cinematographer and director, but it's your first film that you haven't written. So how did this come to you?
Mark Lane sent it to me over a Christmas period, and I read it, and he didn't know, but I was actually looking for a boxing movie. I just didn't know what the boxing movie was, and obviously I'm a huge fan of that genre, and hadn't really found, I guess, my niche or my in without copying or stepping on any toes that's already gone before. And then I read that and I thought, this is really interesting because I've not seen this part of boxing, the boxing sport before, and it was, the way in was the final climax in a weird way, and that was what drew me in straight away.
And is that whole thing a thing? Does that?
It does, yeah. I mean, Chris Eubank Jr. recently didn't make weight, and he was fined, I think, $370,000 or something. It's crazy for it. It is a real thing, yeah.
And Orlando, you worked hard for that. I mean,
just having a mild panic attack.
What attracted you to this role?
Yeah, I mean, like Sean, I've always been a massive fan of the boxing genre. I'd worked with Mark on Retaliation, originally called Romans, and I sort of just thought I've wanted to do something to, like burn the barn down, take the brakes off, and go in on one. And I'm very physical anyway, as a person and as an actor. That's how I kind of get into a character often. And I just never read anything like it. When Mark pitched the idea and Justin put it on the page, it felt painful somehow. I guess I'm comfortable in a Hurt Locker, and I thought that would be an interesting place to sit in. But I just think, we were so happy when Sean came on board, because, I think what's amazing about the film is when you see, we really made this with no money, and you're in so few locations, but the way that Sean shoots as a cinematographer, using the lighting and everything else, it really feels, I didn't sit there thinking, I'm in this room again. It's sort of, it really works, and that's credit to Sean. But
amazing. I mean, I think the budget. I know it was a tight budget, a really tight budget, and you're in one room the majority of the time. I mean, that's a challenge. I mean, you did amazingly, and if you'd asked me how many rooms, I happen to know it was just one room because you told me.
You only had the budget for one room. I think that was it.
But that one room was in the UK as well.
Yeah, we shot in a hotel in Heathrow, which was a bit weird because I thought we were going to have real problems with the noise of the airplanes for sound. But weirdly, that is a very well insulated hotel that looks kind of tacky enough to be Vegas. I shouldn't really say that because they'd probably be upset.
When we pull up in the Vegas hotel and there's the Lamborghini outside, Mark was like, "Can you just hurry up? There might be another bus coming along in a minute." In the background.
There was a red double-decker bus going past every 30 seconds. So we were dodging the buses to make, because we knew we didn't have a CG budget. So that was just a couple of coral filters, and hey presto, there was Vegas.
Yeah, but I mean, also, the other thing that gave it a bit of sort of Vegas grit was shooting on film. And that, I mean, for a low-budget film, there's a general feeling that shooting on film is more expensive, more expensive, and it has certain constraints. I mean, for Orlando, for example, when was the last time you did something on film?
Well, that actually, Yeah, I just worked with. No, yeah, that was it. That was it. Yeah.
Right.
What was the film before that?
Oh, the film before that.
That was shot on film.
On film. Maybe Kingdom of Heaven.
Wow. I mean, and is it, you know, how is it for you when, you know, you've got less?
I mean, the first, John, who's just, I think, amazing in the film. Our first day on camera was actually at that quarry, and we were in the car, and somebody dropped the camera, and then there was a camera jam, and this was John Turturro's first day on set with us on this tiny movie, and he'd agreed to do it, and he was like...
He looked at me like, this is fucking amateur hour. What the fuck have I signed up for? I mean, he was going, is that camera supposed to make that noise? Because it's really loud. It was going, and I was like, yeah, it's fine, like that. And then the first AC, Dom come up to me and said, the camera was fucking open. I was like, oh, for fuck's sake. So, I mean, John was sort of out there sort of looking at us, just shaking his head like this. Yeah, it was difficult.
Yeah.
I mean, those are issues. I mean, it was just the first day, and it's teething problems and getting everyone going. And then
after that, though, it was seamless.
Fine. 2 days after he'd seen the rushes, and he goes, "I think that scene's going to cut." And we're like,
I mean, it does cut. It's sort of almost. It's a wonderful thing. You know, it's the first time you're really out of the hotel. And or you've been in the hotel for a long time.
And opening the door is a great way of.
And it rained. It rained like crazy,
really?
And it was supposed to be a dry, sandy quarry, or desert rather, a desert in Vegas, and it had just been peeing it down with rain, so we had to wait for that, and we had a very short window of time to get that.
When was? I mean, that was in Watford or something, wasn't it?
Yeah, somewhere north of London. I know we did that, and then we did some exteriors actually out in Vegas. We went there.
Yeah.
But we couldn't take Orlando because there was the actors' strike.
Oh my god, that is the thing that hurts me the most, is when I see those pasty white legs running off into the desert. I'm like,
nobody
I'm
knew.
like, how did we
nobody knew that was you. Everybody here just thinks you got white pasty legs.
Yeah, great.
Well, they know now.
They know now. And then there was also the shot of John in the silhouetted against the car lights against the rock, and John, we took a silhouette from a different shot that we had and shrunk it down and put it in, and the guy digging is actually Mark Lane, our producer. So it's amazing what you can get away with.
Yeah, putting producers to work.
Yeah, I love putting a producer to work.
And I mean, also the other thing is, you know, your transformation prior to shooting must have been sort of a bit of obviously a workout, and then putting the and so. I mean, I'm assuming you shot the film in reverse.
Yeah. So we shot in reverse chronological order. The first week of filming was all of the end of the movie, and aside from that one take at the quarry, which was a scheduling thing, so we did that. The rest, I started, you know, with my getting at the way in, and then cutting the finger, and all of the stuff around there, and then we worked slowly backwards. And somehow I hadn't realised, but to make the weight loss look good, I just had to gorge food, you know, for this, like, so having done this crazy weight loss, and at like 175, I was like, wow, this is really nice. Ooh, I could stay around this weight, that's great. But as I got lower and lower, I started to really feel all the things that Boxer was going through. I did a crazy hot bath. By the way, nobody would try this at home because it would be foolish, but I had a nutritionist who worked with Christian Bale on a couple of movies, was recommended to me, and he was doing blood work before I left, so he cut me down, and then before I came to the UK, I was training and cutting weight, and then like I couldn't get lower than like 169 or something. It was a really weird weight, and then he said, right, he timed it with production. Everything was literally timed unbelievably. And I was at home at my house and he said, I want you to run a hot bath, really piping hot, and 25 pounds of Epsom salt, put it in, get in it for 40 minutes, and then pound 2 litres of water, which I did. And I was literally, all the stuff that you were seeing there, I was like, I have some BTS stuff of me sort of just lolling my head around. Unfortunately, Jay Ali, who's here, was there to lift me out of the bath, and some other, and another friend, and I got into bed, and I woke up in the morning, and I kid you not, I dropped 10 pounds. It was crazy. Wow. I literally dropped to the weight that I needed to be at. And I have a photo of me standing on a scale going, and I looked like a skeleton by it. But
And you were on set the next day on that.
yeah. And then I was just
and wobbly like that.
totally. And for the last 2 days, I wasn't really drinking water for that really dry look. And yeah, I was just lying on the floor between takes trying to.
Well, no wonder you did shoot the fight at the end.
I've got anxiety sitting here actually watching that.
Yeah, and I mean, amazing. It's yeah. And how much weight did you put on during the course of the film?
I got back up to about 180. I mean, a lot of it is water, right? I mean, as soon as you introduce water, it just and salts, and then just like, but we also had to tier it, right? So because there was the scenes on the scale where I was not at weight but getting close, so we worked backwards because we were filming reverse chronological. So then it was like once we knew that I wasn't going to be shirtless anymore and there was none of that, it was like ice cream in my shakes, 3 desserts, and it was almost worse than the tuna and cucumber diet I had going into it, because it was just like gorging food and in such a major way. I mean, it's a real head trip. You know, we're supposed to healthily eat and sleep, and I wasn't sleeping, so I was a really hangry, unfun person to be around.
Was he?
Well, yeah, I'll just put it down to the lack of calories, and you know, everyone gets a bit angry when they're hungry. So, but I do remember one bit, they were spraying him down between takes, and I was shouldering an Arri cam. I think on that day our LT went down, so I was shouldering an ST with a 1,000-foot mag. And he looked at me and he went, "Are they spraying you down as well?" And I was like, "No, this is real fucking sweat." It's not actor's sweat, but I remember that day, and I think both of us had a massive workout.
Massive workout. Yeah. Sean was actually running. He sent me videos of him going for a jog to get fit for it, because he's carrying these cameras around. And the amazing thing about I've never had a director DOP before, but he's right there. And so everything we were doing, you know, it was sort of immediate.
You're shit, do it again.
Yeah, exactly. Which worked perfectly for the character. I'm not enough. I'm not doing enough.
The real boss here. Yeah. So I mean, you know, I was going to ask about that, because nowadays often the director is sort of off set. He's back in a tent back there. But having you know, your director as your DOP operating the camera, I mean, that must allow for some. I mean, Sean, for some, as you suggested, some notes, it's quiet little things. But how's it for you as an actor?
It was great. I mean, it's very intimate and immediate. I think, like, interestingly though, in some way, shooting in reverse chronological would make. I'm a little probably. I've got an interesting inside of my brain, and so somehow it worked for me. And we had a shorthand around that, didn't we? And like, I was thinking, because we were shooting it backwards, I was like, oh, well, this piece is going to work here later. So I was having this sort of mental conversation with myself about how the bits that were coming would feature into what we were doing now. And I don't know, I'm a bit ADD, so maybe that worked in my advantage for one time in my life. But Sean was just, I think it was like just intimate, and you knew, right, what we sort of had a shorthand on that, didn't we? I mean, I was sort of out of it, but quite a lot of that stuff at the beginning.
We didn't have much time, so
no
generally, you know, and we're in this hotel room, and there was a lot of scenes in that, and it was just like, I didn't want it to be repetitive. So Vianney did a great job my gaffer did a great job in creating 3 different looks to the room, which was a morning, an afternoon, and an evening. And then a lot of the time it was like 5 actors in a room, and so it was trying to figure out how to, you know, find them and block it with it not being too crazy.
Which you were great at. That was the big. Sorry to interrupt.
Blocking.
Sean always, even though he had no time, he made time at the beginning of the day, every day, at the beginning of each scene, to just block, just to know where we were, and then we were sort of free within that space, but like we knew where we had to be roughly, and that was huge.
It's a good habit. I learned it on a couple of films ago, working with an actor who you know wanted to work that way, and I picked it up, and so that's kind of how I do it now. So I run a scene with the actors, and I say, okay, just I call it a blah blah run through. So they're not even saying the lines, but they know where their lines are. So they go blah blah blah, blah blah blah, blah blah blah, and they physically you start to see where they navigate themselves within the location. And then there'll be questions like, yeah, but he doesn't know that, so should I not tell him? I should be more over here. And they go, oh, that's a good point. Yeah, so you start to see the formation of it, and then you run it 2 or 3 times, and then you start to see how you're going to shoot it. And you start to see, okay, and I've got my heads in there, so I've got my gaffer and my first AC, and then I'm sort of going, I think 1 shot, and then I think this is 2 shots, and then I think that's 3 shots, and then we finish with a wide. And so everyone says that covers the scene. Yeah, I think that covers the scene. Okay, you guys go away. Let us light the room. So then we light the room for those 4 shots that we're going to do, and then they come back.
I think that's how we managed to do it in the time we did.
That's how we managed to do it. Because
And
we had
it was
25 days.
And it makes you feel very safe as an actor when you kind of basically, it's like a theatre thing, when you know where you've sort of got a mental note of where you've got to be for the camera at what point.
And I mean, I guess, you're shooting on film as well, so you're not going to be
Loads of takes.
There's not going to be loads of takes.
Not lots of coverage. Yeah, that's definitely.
And that's it. And coverage, it's sort of you shoot what you need to a point.
Yeah.
Allowing yourself cutting points and what have you.
Yeah.
But do you get conflicted? Does that little DP in your ear go, "Come on, just this really nice shot here"? And then the director,
they hate each other.
The director says to the DP, "Fuck off." Why are you doing it this way?
So they're like, yeah, he's talking to himself again. I was like, "You fucking cunt." So I don't know. Yeah, I think ultimately they both serve the story. So, and I probably learnt that working with you, because me and Angus have made 2 films together, and one of them was so beautifully shot. I got crucified on that film, and I think I learnt a lot from it. And we were talking about it tonight, but I learnt a lot from that, and I learnt that story is kind of everything. And so, when the director and the cinematographer start to fight, it's an easy question. It's like, what serves the story? Mm-hmm. And if it serves the story, then it's good. And if it's not, then it might be something else, like ego, or trying to do something that possibly might not need be there.
Yeah.
Keep it simple, stupid, as we say.
So, keeping it simple, you use your own cameras on this, your own lenses on this.
Ish, yeah. I mean, I think Ari Rental were lovely in sort of picking up the slack on everything that we didn't have, which was a lot. Yeah. And obviously, film cameras, as amazing as they are old now, and they do tend to. It's like the little things inside those cameras, like the springs tend to snap. So there's a very little thing that will bring everything to a halt. But there was, and I think we had two times when 2 cameras went down, but Ari were great in just getting cameras back to us within 24 hours. So it was. And
it looked like in the boxing ring area you had lamps and shot. You're lighting it. How was your lighting package? Was fairly tight and small. I
think it was pretty small. Yeah, I was just Vianney. I just said to Vianney, I don't like LED lights. Just make sure we're sort of using tungsten, and I like a tungsten lamp. And sometimes I used to see him set up a sky panel and then wander off going, I was just like, but
as the actors were looking forward to a bit of a cool light hitting.
Yeah, but they,
being fried by
sometimes it's just getting us through the day, and that But I did get very upset when I used to see a sky panel on set. They are great for certain things, and I kind of miss Kino flows as well. But they got those Astera tubes now, and they're quite funky. Yeah. And he'd just come off the Crown, so he'd been doing all this flat lighting for about 3 months, and then he was like, and I was like, flash some green gel, and he was like, what? And I was like, I bet they didn't let you do that on the Crown, did they? And he was like, oh, he was like,
Princess Margaret.
Yeah.
And tell me a bit about the slow-mo sequences, because they were super intense. I mean, you were your neck. I mean, all those boxing sequences that you did, I think you were saying you did them on quite a long lens. and you were running at what, 600 frames? It was the only.
Yeah, that was the only bit we did digitally, and that was on a Phantom. We were shooting I think 500 frames a second, and we had this 600mm anamorphic, so we had to light to about T4, and the depth of field. Even though I was probably like, halfway across where the cinema is, and Orlando was here, I was getting this. So and the depth of field was probably like an eyelash.
Amazing.
Dom Chen did an amazing job keeping that sharp, and again that Phantom only shoots for 6 seconds, so he's doing all the business. They're doing it, and then the DIT guy he's already saying we're out. It's 6 seconds.
Wow.
And actually, the stuff that we really used on that was when the DT went we're out, he would stop and look over. And he looked right into the lens. And every time we looked at the stuff, I was like, it's so amazing because he's breaking the fourth wall. And that was the thing that we ended up using, all the stuff, not actually the boxing stuff, because we'd done all this boxing training and he was doing that. It was all the stuff when we called cut and he actually looked over. And it just felt like he was looking at not only into himself, but into you as well. Like, are you judging me, of what I'm doing? Is it... So it felt right in creatively in that sense.
It looked good. It looked really good. I might see whether, should we ask some questions? Ask whether anybody has any questions. If somebody does, let's wait for the microphone to get to you. Maybe just stand up because Gwyn wants to film you asking the question. So let's see. We'll go at the back first, and then we'll come down to you, sir, afterwards.
Everyone can hear me, right?
Cool. Yeah.
My name's Alois Jr. I'm a Commonwealth champion, ranked number 4 in the WBA. So I can really relate to the cutting scene and etc. But...
there's a but.
Yes. I'll come to that. But going into the cutting scene, I can really relate to it, like the hot baths, the being seduced by food, all those things. But I really wanted to ask, why wasn't there no, why was there no fight scene at the end?
Oh, yeah. Do you want to answer that?
I didn't think it was about the fight, and I ultimately thought that it was about a guy that needed to get to a place in his life where he needed to ask for help, because it's not a Rocky movie in that sense. We did actually have a sequence that we'd shot at the end, and honestly, like in test screenings, I think it came up against the fact also that we didn't really have the budget to do it right. And I mean, you start talking about Rocky budgets or Creed budgets, and you're talking upwards of 75, 100 million. And so they get to do that in a really timely way, whereas we had 4 million and 25 days. So it was really about the drama, and it was never really about the fight. And even when we saw the test results from having that fight in, first of all, creatively, I thought it was a bit disappointing. It wasn't comparable to what we are accustomed to. And I thought it took away from what was really important, that he's mentally ill and scarred from his past and he needs help. And I thought it felt more emotional, I guess, in that sense. Is that right?
Yeah, I think so. I think, as a fan of boxing and the movies, and like a whole new respect for fighters across the board, that's just crazy dedication. Playing that whole moment on Katrina, who just held the camera so beautifully for that length of time, hearing it play out, not really knowing what the result was going to be, I think it just left you hanging and thinking, wait. And then when we cut to the diner and there's a slow push in on the back of him and you sort of hear him talking about it, you still don't really know. And you still don't really know until there's the close-up of the belt. And then you realise that when is it ever going to be enough? And I think that's a battle that everybody has. When am I enough? What do I need to do? In at least, some for boxer, and it's what do I got to do here? I thought that was really powerful. I appreciate what you say though.
Does anyone else want to fight at the end? Did anyone else feel like they wanted it?
Because we could put it in.
We'll put it in. Just give us 20 minutes. We'll cut that reel in.
So this
Me,
gentleman
yeah.
here, if you
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Well, congratulations on the masterpiece. And this is an Oscar winner, I think. But it's essential that those who decide who wins the Oscars see this as we've seen it tonight in 35mm on that screen. You know, if that can be done, that can be arranged. The BAFTA people, the Oscar people, the ASC people, all of them can see it in that visceral medium. I mean, what was so powerful about this film, it was so visceral. It was so visceral, it was intellectual. You know, really. I mean, ooh. It really was powerful stuff, and it should win an Oscar. Anyway.
Oh, thanks.
Thank you very much.
there we go.
Appreciate that.
I hope he hasn't
From
jinxed
your
it.
from your mouth to God's ears, as they say.
So do we have another question? There we go.
I thought it was stunning. I think you absolutely made the right choice to not have the fight. It wasn't about the fight. I was very intrigued as to why you chose to shoot the majority of it in a close-up. Was that a sort of metaphor for the fight is in the mind, or, you know, the fight against the weight he's trying to lose is in the mind? Because it was mainly in close-up, you know.
Yeah, I think as a photographer, I'm uncomfortable with wide-angle lenses. And I know that's probably a bit controversial to say, because I think it's in vogue at the moment. Everyone likes sticking a 21mm up everyone's nostril. But I don't really see the world that way, and I don't think we do. And I guess I definitely see the world in details. So I like to be close to my actors. And I guess the other thing is we had a very small set. It was a real hotel room, so I was backed right up against the wall. So everybody was like that. But yeah, I generally what I did was I started every scene quite wide, and I had this Cook zoom that I would ride throughout the scene, and I would slowly zoom in as the scene progressed, and then I would then go and move to the next corner of the room and do the same thing. So I would have a slow push in that would build the scene into quite big close-ups towards the end. So I think that, and I think when a scene ends on a big close-up, it's always quite, it's quite startling, especially if you cut to something that's like a close-up of something else, but not a face. So yeah, I guess that was the decision.
Thank you. Now, I think we're at time. Thank you both, Sean, Orlando. I mean, and everybody here who was part of this.
Yeah.
It's an amazing achievement. Amazing achievement. Thank you so much.
Thank you so
Really,
much.
thank
Thanks for watching, guys. Everyone deserves a stiff drink.